Okay guys, in this video we're going to be working on the wizard. And do I have chat enabled? Yes. Okay, there we go. Alright, so the wizard, I've just done a very rough, loose sketch on my phone, actually. I use the Samsung Galaxy Note 8 and just copied that to the clipboard from my Google Photos account. I'm going to set up a new document in here, 350 for the resolution, and for this character, because he's tall, I'm going to go ahead and make it 8.5 by 11 at 350 DPI or PPI. Paste in our illustration. You can see it's much smaller than our canvas, and so I'm just going to expand it to fill my page here. And I'll double click on my layer. We'll name it Sketch. Oh, and I also want to drop the opacity way down. I'll create a new layer, fill it with white, move it underneath my sketch so that we can see our sketch again. Create a new layer above my sketch, double click, name it Ink. You guys should know the process by now. Alright, then I'm just going to B on the keyboard, which is the brush tool. I have solid black, an 8-pixel brush. I have my hardness turned all the way up and the anti-aliasing turned off. And I'll show you, as I zoom in here, you can see the sketches. You know, when you blow something up that's sort of low resolution, you start to lose the definition. It gets fuzzy and pixelated and introduces artifacts. So this is why I'm redrawing this, but also so that sort of my second pass can be a little bit more refined. And the shadows here, I'm just basically drawing as a solid shape. I want this whole side of his face to be in shadow. Right, just like that. You can fill it in with the paint bucket tool. There's deep inset eyes, so he'll have a shadow underneath his brow. And I'm just sort of giving the implication of the eye there because my line work has a lot of weight. I've got a pretty thick brush here, and I prefer having these really bold lines. And if things sort of silhouette or go pure black, I'm really okay with that, because the final art is going to be on a 3x5 cards. So you can see I'm using that sketch more as a guide. I'm not going over it exactly. I actually think I might simplify this a little bit, so I'll just draw his beard here. Put a few lines sort of indicating a texture of hair. Still going to be more shadow on this side. And I wanted this wizard to be a very sort of classic Gandalf-like wizard, with maybe a little bit more gear. And I think I want to give him this collar here. Maybe there's a clasp right underneath here, which will mostly be in shadow. But I kind of want this this idea here with this turned collar. And that's mostly going to be in shadow. Maybe this is the cord for his cloak. And so I didn't really want to give the wizard armor. Sort of these kind of sort of classic personalities. You know, wizard can be a lot of things, but I wanted to make this character very clear in what he was in the illustration, so that when the card sits on the table, because these illustrations, by the way, they are for a playing card game that I'm designing, writing the rules for, and creating all the artwork for, as you can see. And so I want them to read very, very well and clearly on the table. So it's partly why I use so much black and make this sort of very high contrast. Yet still, my goal is to still make sure it feels hand drawn. And in my style. So if I'm drawing on paper, normally I'm using, you know, like a actually I really like using the G2 gel pens for line work, and then just a Sharpie or a Micron, some kind of broad, thick nib. Or what I actually do a lot more of is just a brush and a bottle of black craft paint, acrylic craft paint, and that's kind of what I do in my journals, because it doesn't bleed through. It never bleeds through as long as you don't water it down. And I can fill in huge amounts of area, much like you see me doing here with the paint bucket tool. I can do that with acrylic craft paint. So my traditional tools are actually very, very simple. Essentially, it's a ballpoint gel pen for the outlines, and some black craft paint and brush to fill in my solid blacks. And I do that instead of fiddling with sort of dynamic line weight. So this whole area here, actually, it's not going to be, I don't want it to be completely solid, so I'm going to kind of scribble in here just a little bit in a few different areas, and then fill it in. That's what I want. That's kind of the feeling of how I would do it on paper. So I don't want to lose this sort of feeling of spontaneity and make my drawings all super clinical, which is why I don't mind a little bit of wobble in here. It is also kind of my style that has been developing. You know, as I keep drawing these things, just dozens and dozens of drawings, and sort of my art style is akin to, you have to maybe heard me say before, but Mike Mignola's work, who's the author and illustrator of the Hellboy comics. And this is sort of a similar style. And he was definitely an influence on me, but I did not get introduced to him until later on in life. And really was attracted to his art because it was similar to the style I've always sort of gone for. Nice high contrast lighting, but very simple technique, and almost kind of a chunkiness to it. And if you see any of his work, you'll see what I mean. Lots of solid black, lots of shadows like this. He does a very similar. He does very little cross hatching. Maybe a little bit of a cast shadow from that collar there. He does very little cross hatching, like most comic book artists will do. A lot of this kind of stuff to indicate a gradation. And for me, that starts to flatten things out a bit. I've seen it done really, really well, and it is lovely when it's done well. But I actually just prefer, if there's going to be a shadow, just like fill it in. In fact, I'm going to add more shadow here. Just fill it in the armpit there, and I prefer this just kind of dither as opposed to like lines. I'll just dither it a little bit, kind of using this tooth pattern to indicate that this is a gradual change, usually over something that's curving or round, just to kind of help indicate the form. And you see here I added in a strap. I wanted to kind of give him a few more dangly bits, and just pieces of interest. Sort of interesting studs here on his belt. Okay. And for these lines, I might actually use the curve tool, so I can bend them right into place here. Okay, and back to my brush. And I'll use the curve tool here as well. A lot of straps and clasps and buckles. Okay. I think this was intended to be a clasp like this, and maybe some beads. So I can kind of reinterpret some of my line work here. And it wants to be like a book that's hanging from his hip with a big leather strap around it, or this like carrying case. Just like that. And I'm not going to change my line weight here and try to draw in more detail than I can see. I want to stick with this sort of monoline illustration style, and if I can't fit it in, it's just too small. So I'll sort of imply some details, because I could get much more detailed and, you know, start adding in a lot of details and fidelity that's not actually there. In the digital version, in the digital space, but I don't want to do that. Just putting in some lines to indicate the pages. I can zoom out and see what that is looking like. Let me hide the sketch layer. That's how it's looking. Cool. And we'll just keep going here. So maybe these beads go up around and attach to something, you know, in the back, on the other side of the belt. Get this line. Drop in a few shadows here and there. Thicken up the bottom lines of some of these things. Okay, here's another strap that connects to this pouch. Maybe it goes underneath those belts there. And there's kind of this little clasp connecting to the pouch. Some wrinkles and folds. Some shadow here. Fill that in. Make sure I have some nice areas of black. Okay, draw the bottom half of this pouch. Got some magical symbols, some sort of or pendants or components or something for his spells here. And then he's gonna have like several layers here, where his robes kind of overlap. Maybe something underneath the coat. There's a tunic maybe, and then there's something underneath that. Get this line a little smoother. Okay, and I think I wanted there to be this sort of big shadow on this side of the coat. And the light's kind of coming from the top down mostly. Yeah. That shadow maybe extends up into this. Okay. You see, I'll zoom in and out quite a bit, and if I'm focusing on a line, you know, I kind of get to a comfortable place, and I can just pan around. I can whip around this whole canvas just by holding down the space bar and then clicking and dragging, just panning around. There's one boot. The very back part of his cloak that kind of hangs down. And kind of my thought here was imagining that these are sort of like leather wrappings, or like there's sort of, you know, multiple layers to the boot here. Where he has almost like these sort of moccasin kind of shoes that have a little bit of a turned up point. And then maybe like leather shin guards over top of that. Need a bit more shadow underneath this piece so you can really start seeing, you know, these layers of fabric overlapping. Okay. Fix this hand up a little bit. And the fingers wrap around the staff. Okay, I'm going to use the line tool, the curve tool, which is O on the keyboard. Drop in a nice straight line. We'll match this up. Okay. Just like using a ruler on paper. Just faster. A little shadow there. And I really don't know what I'm going to do with the top of this staff. Needed just a little bit of some kind of detail there. Alright, and then I think that I'm going to go to my shapes here and start with a circle. We'll draw that in. I think I don't want to make it too much bigger than that right there. Does that look right? Yeah. Okay. And I kind of just want this to look like just a really, really bright glow off the staff, almost like you can't really see anything like what's happening in here. It's so bright. So maybe there's some kind of ball or like a sphere. Maybe he uses his staff as like a talisman sort of thing to cast the spells. I can go into my eraser and kind of erase in some chunks here. Then I like this shape. I'm gonna freestyle this. Some sort of energy that's kind of coming off this thing. Alright, I think that's it. I kind of don't want to overdo it too much. I'll give this a little point at the end. Okay, a little bit of a shadow there on the inside of his palm, right? Let's go over here and do this arm. A couple wrinkles right there. We'll do this arm really quick. We'll do this. This will be cloth. A few wrinkles here and there. And then this is almost like, it's almost like a you know, the gloves that, like bird handlers, the peregrine falcons and hawks and things. It's kind of what I was thinking. Some kind of glove like that. Because, you know, wizards have familiars, like owls. Maybe he has an owl or a hawk or something. And this sort of padded glove could be used for that, and he's just wearing it on this adventure, almost as armor. Okay, the back part of his cloak. And his cloak, I kind of want to make it worn and torn. And honestly, just a few lines can really give that implication. Alright, we have a pouch right here, or a strap for the pouch. A little bit of a shadow here, a little shadow here. Alright, let's see how that's looking. I'll turn off my sketch layer and just look at the clean line art. There we go. I think I like this. Need to fix something right here. There we go. Alright, so now, get rid of my sketch layer. Thank you. IMEM says that's a wonderful drawing. Thank you very much. This is the wizard for the game Rignar that I've been working on. Alright, now go to my ink layer, use my magic wand tool to select everything except for the character. Control I to invert that selection. And then hold down Control, Shift, and press X to crop all of my layers to that selection. So you see here I get this nice, easily selectable piece of pixels. And I'll duplicate that because I'll use the white layer later on. This is going to be my color layer. And we'll go right back to our brush tool and start coloring this thing. Now what I like to do actually is I'll first find a color that I want to fill this with, and I think that the wizard's going to be sort of more periwinkle and blues, and I just prefer you know, seeing a color rather than white, so that I can really, it helps me kind of dial in my colors a little bit better. Alright, we'll start with the skin. You can see what I do is I just make a boundary or a border around where I want to fill in. Then switch to my paint bucket tool and I can just flood fill it in. I think that's actually the only exposed skin. Yeah, that's it. His hair, I think I'm going to make a very light gray. I think that'll look really good with the highlights and shadows that we will add later. And I just need to separate the hair from the closest adjacent color. So with the beard here, there we go. K on the keyboard, I can pick up colors. Just this part of his chin where the hair doesn't grow. And I think his bottom lip I'm going to make just a light pink. Okay, we'll go ahead and get his hair color again and just paint in his eyebrow. This one's in shadow, so you're not going to see it, or much of it. Okay, I can clean that up just like that. I am Yam says that line art is clean, it looks very dynamic, and is full of expression. Well, thank you. Did you sketch it out on paper first, or did you jump into the program to draw? I sketched it out actually on my phone. And just a sketchbook, Autodesk's sketchbook app. And I use a Samsung Galaxy Note. That's the Note 8. Which has a little stylus. So I did the initial sketch, which does really help me kind of get the proportions and everything first before I get into the computer. And all I did is it just automatically uploaded to my Google Photos account, where I can just copy it to the clipboard and then paste it right into paint.net and draw over it. But so the initial sketch, very rough, loose sketch, was done on my phone, but I typically would do these on paper first. You'll see that in my other videos. And then to take a picture of it with my phone, usually the Google's Photo Scan app, because it'll adjust for the distortion that will happen when you take a picture, even at a slight angle. So scanning is probably the best way to get line art into the computer if you draw it on paper, because it's, you know, it's completely flat and lined up. But the Photo Scan app is also good, but it's not a very high resolution image anyways, so that's why I'll paste it into paint.net and then just redo my lines over it. And that way I know a couple of things. I don't have to fiddle with like levels and curves and stuff like that. I'm just using pure black to really kind of in one pass really do the final line art. And I can make adjustments and clean things up, and, you know, maybe add things, or remove things that maybe I didn't like in the original. So now I'm just using this lighter kind of steel color. It's kind of a bluish gray for all of the metal pieces here. Some of this is going to be more of a bronze or brass color. These loops, maybe this pouch is a bit more common than some of his other gear, so that'll just kind of be a steel color. The studs on this glove. This glove's basically going to be all leather. Alright, for these other pieces, we'll make him this sort of mustardy yellow color. Thank you for the comments and the questions, by the way. I want this to be sort of a gold or bronze strap here. That piece. The corners of this book. And the top of his staff. In fact, I'll go ahead and fill in this whole thing with gold. Scroll all the way down here, isolate the tip of the staff, almost like a spearhead on the end there. And I think I was going to make this piece leather, but I think we'll go ahead and make it like maybe the end of the belt that's fed through a little loop there. Alright, I think that's it. For this moon and stars, I'm debating on whether making it gold. I think so, just because kind of limit the color palette a little bit. There we go. So then just give things a word like that, and then switch quickly to the fill bucket tool, which is F on the keyboard, and fill it in. I've got some more leather straps here, so I'll go to my leather color, which is this kind of dark burnt umber, reddish brown. These are all going to be leather. You can kind of do this in a couple of passes here. Fill that in. And when I do the shading and the highlight layers, it'll help me separate these belts and straps from each other, give them some depth, and enforce the idea or the illusion that they are, overlapping each other. We'll get this strap here for the book as well. See, I could go through and just, do things like this, just going back and forth with my brush. But as long as I give it a border that touches completely, I can just switch to the fill bucket tool and fill it in. Doing that sort of mono line, thick line art as well sort of helps it really make it easy on myself for hiding the seams between these colors. Right, and I think just his boots and his gloves left. So I just need to separate this line from the color of the cloak and fill it in. I can zoom way in here too and just kind of clean up the edge. Easy peasy. Same thing over here. Separate this glove. I'm going to go ahead and separate the fingers from the staff because I want that to be a different color. I'm not sure what yet, but there we go. And the boots. And I think underneath here, so this is where I can start kind of separating. I'm gonna have to go in and clean that up a little bit, but this will still save me time. Actually, this should go all the way up here. So it's almost like there's a long tunic underneath the cloak. So there's multiple layers. And I kind of want that tunic to be like a lighter color. Right, now I'll clean up my edges here. And all the way up here, finally, it gets overlapped by one of those belts. Now there's yet another layer underneath that, so I'm going to make it this light yellow, sort of like a maybe like bleached wool or something, a little bit warmer. And there's a tiny little clasp just barely peeking out underneath his beard here. Okay, I can clean up this edge. I think I'll make this the robe color. Okay, there we go. Alright, we've got the book and the beard. I'll grab this light gray again and make this color of the pages. And the book color, I think, will be red. Let's go with this red. Nope. There we go. And the color of the beads. Maybe this bright turquoise. Or cyan. Okay, and I think the staff, I want to make it like this dark brown, just like that. I think that's just about it. I might, let me think. Perhaps his sleeves are this yellow color. Just want to see what that looks like. I might not like it. I might introduce a different color altogether. Yeah. Yeah, I don't really like it. I think I'm going to go with like a muted purple. Yeah, I like that better. Introduce a little purple in there. Now do I make that his coat color or just the sleeves? Questions. Let's see. Well, while I'm thinking about that, I'll go ahead and make the trim on this glove a little fancier. Well, I can start doing the shading for sure. So I'm going to duplicate my white layer. Oh no, I don't need to do that. I just need to create a new layer above my color layer. So let me hide the ink and I'll show you what we just did. So here's all the colors. These are all the flat colors. And our ink on top of that. This is going to be our shading layer. I'm going to call it shading, put my blending mode on multiply, my opacity to 120. Switch back to my brush. And I choose a dark purple color. And I can just start drawing in some shadows. Fill that in very quickly. Make the Okay, so with drawings like this, I've got multiple light sources to consider. So there's sort of just a general light, which is coming from the top down, but then there's also this very dramatic light source that's going to be coming from his staff here. That will be creating shadows, oh jeez, on the side facing away from the staff. And I don't want to overdo it, so I can come back in with my eraser, erase little bits that just might be catching a glimpse of light. I'm gonna go in with the eraser and just erase a few bits here of mostly just like on the edges of some of these ridges. It's almost like giving it a highlight, but I'm just erasing the shadow that I had painted in. Good. A little more shadow in this side of the glove. On the bottom edges of the fingers, put a little bit of a shadow there. Spilling onto the pole of the staff. And for the head of the staff, I'm going to put a little shading just right in the center. Just like that. Nope. So that purple shadow color affects the other colors underneath it differently. Just, I like that, kind of gives the entire thing kind of a tone. Yeah, I like that. All right, just a little bit more for the shading. Yeah, I think I like that. This needs to be a little bit of a highlight right here. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on this staff and just shade sort of the center so that there's kind of rim light on either side. Just like that. That's it for the shading. So that's without the shading. That's with the shading. Create a new layer, call this highlights. Okay, this I'm going to put on screen blending mode, 120 for the opacity, and I like to use a light yellow for the highlights. So my highlights are warm and my shadows are cool. I'm on a separate layer. But underneath my line art, or the ink. So again, I can paint over all of the colors without disturbing my line art. And all of the colors are being highlighted in the same way. It's adding yellow on screen mode, which will create these lighter colors, but they're not just, it's like adding white. It's not just finding a lighter version of the colors that are on here. It's also toning them, so the highlights have more yellow, more warmth. See, it almost turns gray here in the blue, and I might actually go in and fade that out a little bit. I normally don't do gradients. I'm actually just gonna make that all highlight, but sometimes some of the transitions just need to be a little bit more subtle. See, I'm actually putting a highlight over top of the shadow in that shadow area. Just to kind of have some bounced light. I'm a little bit more reserved, a little bit more restrained with my highlights than my shadows, because it's really only the I'm just trying to emphasize the very top ridges of things. I'm actually going to take this down in opacity just a little bit more. Went down to 100. I just want to emphasize some of those bridges, and I kind of over-exaggerate it on purpose, again, because I want these to read nicely on the table. Okay, I will, I think, feather some of this. Just a little bit. I think that's good. Yeah. Okay, now let's go back here. A big glow in here. Also on the color layer, I'm going in with pure white and just creating a big shine right in here. But I'm also going to create a new layer. This is going to be in my glow, and I'm going to put it on 150 opacity and on color dodge, and then I'm going to use this light yellow to make my line art glow. There's some magic in that book. Maybe these runes or the symbols on his cloak. Alright, so that's without the glow, that's with the glow. Alright, and then I'm going to go to my ink layer. Select all of the ink back to my glow layer, back to my brush, so that I can paint right on top of the line art and make sure that this whole thing is coloring the lines and just the lines. Alright, back to my main selection. See how that looks. Yeah, I like that. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and save this. There's my wizard. I'll put a 0-1 after it, just because I'm going to try to do at least 2 illustrations of each character. And then I will also save it as a PNG. Put a color tag at the end of it. And I can preview it. Save it out. Resave it just for good measure. And this is when I would put it into a card, but I'll save that probably for another video. I just finished the Warlock a couple of days ago, and you can see all the detail that goes into these characters. I really like how this one turned out. And now we have our wizard. I really like that. I like that sort of glowing effect from that book. I like the colors. Cool. Well, that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. I'll have more coming soon. More streams, I'm sure, of this illustration process. The final results, I think it's just a fun thing for me to sort of experience creating something from start to finish, using very, very basic techniques and free open source software. We've been in paint.net for this video. Just have a few layers going on in the paint.net document. That glow effect, just having something on that color dodge really just kind of adds that sort of magical element to things. And that's it for now. Thank you guys for watching. Bye for now.